How's it going, everybody? Here, Frankie here from Mirth Films, and we're here today for a special episode of Kinda Live, Kinda Livin'. Usually we have musicians on the podcast, but today we have a photographer, and it's the one, the only, John Bulmer. John, how you doing this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of your work. I found out about it. About it just from honestly scrolling Facebook. You were a recommended person to follow, and I would see your photos populate in my algorithm all the time. And I'm a huge fan, by the way. And then also just it's impressive to see you bring photos that were taken, decades ago, even a century ago, and bringing them back to light. And so where did the passion start? Like, were you, like, did you always know you wanted to be a photographer? Is this something that you fell into, or just eventually it became a hobby and now it's your thing?
Thanks. Yeah, and thank you for the kind words. I've been a photographer for 30 years. I'm, giving my age away here. So my dad was a hobbyist when I was a kid. So I grew up with a dark room in our house. Full working commercial darkroom in the house, old Hasselblad enlargers, big World War II era stainless steel sink. So I'd be down there, developing prints. And I often joke with my father because I spent a large part of my life in hunting blinds waiting to take a photo of a deer, and I was bored to death. I never thought I would be a photographer. So after high school, I got an art degree. So I did a whole bunch of commercial art, photography. And then after that, to kind of avoid the workforce, I guess, I went back and got a history degree. So I have a dual specialty in photography and history. So I've kind of found a niche now that allows me to use both. I'm pretty lucky to do that. I blend the both. I blend both of them, and I try to give people positive content on Facebook or across my social media platforms and across Substack, and try to teach them some things. It's funny. I've been a commercial photographer for a long time. I've shot everything you can imagine. I started out taking photos of everything, and then I did weddings for a while. Decided that wasn't for me. Did portraits for a while. Decided that wasn't me. Worked as a photojournalist. Was published in the New York Times. Published in Europe. Like all this stuff, and I still work at that. But I was really shocked on how popular the historical restorations became of all the things I've ever taken photos, and these things just took off. And I think it's showing people comparatively what their landscape today looked like, 100 years ago. And I also try to embed as much historical information about that. And I try to teach people that, even in your own life, your old photos are archives of information. Just because they're old doesn't mean they don't have gigs of information contained in the image. So I'm trying to change people's perceptions of old photos and advocate for them to print their new photos, because I think in 20 years from now, you're going to see a huge gap in printed photos. And everything's going to be on the cloud. So we'll have no physical archive.
That makes sense. And no, it's really fascinating, and especially because when you see it at a local level and seeing those photos restored versus, like, what you would see at a national or global level, I feel like it hits home, and it leaves more of an impact. That with your dad being a hobbyist, having a dark room, did you guys ever get to experience shooting together?
Yeah,
Was that a thing?
yeah, we've shot together in the past. He still shoots a lot of wildlife stuff. Me, not, I mean, I do environmental stuff. I do environmental advocacy, public lands advocacy. So, like, you know, being a busy person, I don't get to shoot with my dad as much as I want. But yeah, we do shoot, and it's great. And before my daughter went to college, I'd bring her out and, stick a camera in her hand. And I have a feeling she had some of the same feelings of boredom that I had when I was a kid. So it was kind of funny full circle. But growing up with a dark room in my house, I had a very rooted foundation in analog photography. So between that and being fortunate to start art school right as I think Photoshop 2.5 came out. So I've been literally using Photoshop for almost, for its whole life. And I think the misconception about the historical restorations is that it's an app. People ask me that all the time. Is it an app? What app do you use? And I use such a workflow to do these to make them realistic, to add atmospheric, light scattering and like, so it is about a 10 or 15 step process to get these things to where they are. And I think that's why people key on them because they're unique. If you just use an online colorizer or you use an app on your iPhone, you're not going to get that kind of realism and atmospherics that I can.
Well, it obviously shows the level of attention to detail. Now, as far as you know, you're really good at marketing yourself. What is the? I'm not going to say what is the key, but like, what tips do you have for aspiring photographers looking to get their work out more with just marketing themselves and putting things out online?
So I think there's a few things there. I think one is building social capital with your followers, right? So people follow me and they know what they're going to get. They know they're going to get quality content. They know they're going to get quality content across my platforms. And I'm going to continually come up with creative things. So I have a Substack called Restoration Obscura that is all written and it's podcasts. So between the photography, I wrote a book back in June, released that. So I continue to build on my narrative. The other important part is to find your narrative. And I tell people who are starting out in photography to find your voice. And it doesn't matter what you want to take a photo of. If you like barns, if you like boats, if you like dogs, it doesn't matter. Find a subject, take a picture of that subject in every possible scenario, every possible condition, every possible lighting situation. So I believe that if you become an expert in shooting one thing, you will learn enough to be an expert in shooting many things. So it's just consistency in knowing that you don't know everything and shoot so much that you can, you eventually become a master at it. I don't believe in the 10,000 hour thing. I think it's more than that. I think you have to continually grind at it if it's important to you. But that consistent narrative to show people things and to figure out what people respond to is the most important thing. We can all take pictures of pretty things all day, but if that doesn't speak to someone on some other level than just being a postcard or some sort of gift shop image, then you need to go deeper. And one of the most important things I've learned in art school is that it's always the second, third, and fourth iterations of your idea that are the most important, not the first. So really think of your process.
So, okay, you've established yourself online. Now, as far as protecting your images, protecting your work, your life's work, um, I don't want to get too nitty gritty with this, but I realized a real powerful point that you made when other people share your photos, and let's say they're monetized on Facebook,
Sure.
whatever it may be. It didn't hit home to me until I realized that, oh yeah, our platform is monetized, and really anybody can take a photo and reshare it. So like, I guess like what do you do for as much stuff that could happen? What do you do to protect yourself? Is it a watermark? Is it just it seemed like a lot of people were there for you in a situation where your photo was being used in a platform where somebody didn't ask.
Yeah, that's the social capital, right? My followers and the people that I interact with. I was really touched on how protective they were of my work. So there's two streams of work that I do: the commercial, the photojournalism, the original works are all heavily watermarked, and sometimes I get criticism for that, depending on where the audience is. They say I've ruined it with a watermark. There's a perception in the photography world that if you watermark an image, you are labeled as difficult to work with. I've had people complain that my images are watermarked, and I know for a fact they just want to either steal them or print them. I've had labs reach out to me and say people are bringing in even the watermarked photos to print, and they've refused them. So watermarks can only go so far. I mean, anybody who has any bit of information knows that you can easily remove watermarks. You need a little bit of technical ability, but that's my first line of defense. Now, with the historical stuff, I consider that a public service. And what people don't see behind the scenes is I do hundreds of photos for people that I never post. People will send me a picture of their deceased father. People will send me pictures of things they haven't seen in years. I did a photo for a follower a few months ago, and it was a photo of her father, and he died when she was 14. and I completely rebuilt it. I think this was the first clear image this person had ever seen of their father. And I never, I've never charged for that stuff. So the historical stuff goes out, and I want people to enjoy it. I want archives to share it. I want it to be an educational thing. I'm starting to rethink and reevaluate watermarking those, just because I find them literally everywhere. And it's kind of insulting when someone takes my photo and then takes my historical analysis, which took me time to write, and just posts it wholesale on some other thing and doesn't even mention me. And I do them for an educational value for people, but it's to the point where, yeah, we're just stealing from people. And you're right. If you're monetized and someone takes that out of your content stream and puts it on their monetized stream, they are literally stealing from you.
We've established a little bit about protecting your photos. I mean, I'm guessing you go as far as, putting all your information into your metadata as well, if that stuff's being shared digitally.
Sure, that works, but a lot of social media sites strip that metadata, I think, for safety reasons for people. You don't want someone to put metadata up on Facebook and then some creeper come along and look at the EXIF data and figure out where they live. So that only goes so far. And let's be realistic. You can embed metadata all day long and someone could just make a screenshot. I see things shared all day long that are just the screenshots from an iPhone. You've got the black, letterboxing on the top and the bottom and their battery level. So no metadata in the world is going to save that. So it's easy enough to steal people's photos. I try to make the situation that just happened instructive for people. And I was told, these are other people's photos. Well, they are, and I will tell you that I put a provenance statement on every historical restoration that I do. I try to source images from public domain, from archives, from the Library of Congress, and people will submit photos to me from their private collections. And I've been lucky enough to have people give me amazing images. Like I did a restoration for the first photojournalist killed in Vietnam. Their family basically entrusted this person's legacy to me, and that's the only thing that left after he was killed in a midair collision in Vietnam, with these images. And I had the privilege to restore them. I didn't colorize them. I kept them true to form. So somebody else gave me hundreds of plates from E.L. Crandall. He was a photographer who worked around the turn of the century for the agricultural department and did a bunch of exploration. So I have his remaining archive. So I'm really lucky to have people submit things to me. I will tell you that never have I just gone to someone's page without permission and say, I like that, I'm going to take this. And I will try to give them a value return for that. So people post these things all day long, and I will reach out to them personally and say, hey, look, I really love your photo. I want to tell your story. I'm going to restore this. If you say yes, I'm going to give you back a high-res version for you to use however you want. And I found that that's been a very good way to do this.
Now, to keep things fun here, what's your favorite focal length? You got one lens that you can use for the rest of your life from this point on.
Well, I mean, my walk around lens is an 18 to 200, but if I was going to tell you my favorite, it would be the Nifty 50, like a 1.4 okay. 50 millimeter. Like that's the most fun lens you can use.
Now, are you using that on a Nikon, Sony, Canon?
I don't know if you can see it. There's like hundreds of cameras here. So like I use them on everything. I have a ton of film cameras. I'm on eBay all day long looking for working film cameras of what I can use. I recently just acquired a 1940s Ansco field camera, a big bellows camera that was built for the Defense Department to take war battlefield assessments. Oh, wow. So I've been out with that, taking direct paper negatives with the big focusing hood, and people looking at me like, what is that? But while I'm a commercial photographer and I have, top of the line DSLRs that I will take on client shoots, I firmly believe that it doesn't matter what kind of camera you use. So I am literally experimenting with everything. I'll be on Amazon and see like a $50 janky camera. I'm like, I'm going to try that to see what it does. So yeah, I like to experiment with everything.
That's exciting. I think it's good to have a full understanding of how different camera manufacturers work. For myself, while I'm at my day job, we shoot Nikon Z8s, but when I'm at home, I shoot Sony and Canon. And, the triangle remains the same, but like it's cool to see like the different color sciences and how things operate and the feel. And because I feel
Yeah.
like the feel of your camera, you know, it doesn't portray into the feel of your shot. But I mean, for me, it's like, I don't know, like you have intention with with the tool that you're using. So it's like, I don't know. I think I think it's good to be open minded, and that's really cool that you go as far as just constantly looking for used film gear. I've never shot film myself. I hope I get to one day.
Easier than ever now. You can just send it away and you get, high res scans back. But people are super kind to me. So I will have people reach out and say, I have this camera. Are you interested in it? And give it to me. So, building that social capital and being great to your followers and the people who you interact with on Facebook and all the other platforms really pays off. So I've met some really sweet and wonderful people, and I've obtained some really great pieces, and I've obtained some really great images.
Now, in 2025 versus when you started shooting photography, what are some of the things that you find yourself doing that you didn't think you would be doing today?
I'm untethered. So back when I first started shooting, it was a hybrid of film and digital. So, you would shoot film, but digital wasn't where it should have been. So you always shot primarily film and then you shot some digital. And looking back at it now, the pixelization and like the dynamic range and everything was terrible. Basically Game Boy level. So as things progressed, it became more digital, but I was always tethered to a workstation. So now I do a lot of editing on mobile devices in the field, deploying images from the field, watermarking them from the field, editing from the field. So I think now, and then just what applications are out there. So for the longest time, Photoshop was the only name in the game. And quite honestly, like I love Photoshop. I call it my video game. Like that's how I play. But there's so many complete packages out there that rival Photoshop, and the AI that's embedded in that will actually read the image for you and give you suggestions. And there's things that you can do with a one or two clicks now that would have taken an hour in Photoshop 10, 15 years ago. Wouldn't have been that great. So the agility, the portability, and I mean, I don't use my MacBook or my computers as much as I used to because I can equate that to anything like an iPad. So it's a fun time to be a field photographer for sure.
100%. I'm happy you brought that up because currently I just invested in the new iPad Pro about a year ago, and like I've been trying to like convince myself how can I take this and make it my main workhorse.
Sure.
Because yeah, like being locked down to your home, or yeah, carrying around a 5, 6 pound laptop, uh you could do it, but like having the built-in cellular data, to Adobe now pretty much having every program that you need minus a few things. I really hope we get Lightroom Classic for
Yeah.
iOS. But yeah, I think so like if you are thinking in that mobile mind, thinking, all right, quick, or maybe not even quick, but just working at a smaller level, but doing the same big things that you would on a laptop, desktop. I mean, how are you, is it change up your workflow for backup, for stuff like that?
Well, the other thing is I'm backing up more to the cloud. I mean, I've got so many hard drives, and I use those less and less now because I've redundant cloud backups that I trust more. But yeah, I mean, it changes the workflow. I still like, if you use Lightroom Classic, which I'm not a fan of the new Lightroom Classic all the way.
Yeah.
I use that when I do commercial work, and I can process 3,000 images in an hour. I can batch them, sync them, make sure they all look good with the same kind of tone and contrast. Can't do that on mobile yet. So, but mobile, I can do 10, 15, 20 images, which helps if you're doing news coverage. If it helps if you're doing a commercial shoot, you need to either give your client that stuff right away or beat someone to market. I mean, that's the great thing. Like you go out and cover a news event, you can have those images deployed within 30 seconds, and it's real time, information for people. So it does change that. And I've got my favorite applications that I use mobile. I've got my workflows that I know what to do and where to go. So it's quicker for me, but there are some limitations to it. It becomes annoying going back and forth between a million applications. You're saving different iterations to your camera roll, trying to because there's really no non-destructive photo editing, and you can do it in Lightroom on on iOS, but if you want to bring that to other applications, you end up with this string of images that you can see where you started and where you're ending, and it becomes kind of a pain the more complicated it gets.
100%. They definitely could figure out the files versus camera roll situation. I definitely deal with that headache from time to time. Bringing it home, bringing it local, some last fun questions. Do you have any local favorite photographers or people that inspire you in the 518?
So I have a bunch. So we have this whole group of people who just talk, and I love to support local photographers. I give them my advice freely. I give them technical advice freely, So there's a bunch. I don't want to name anybody, and then someone's like, "Wait, you didn't name me," but
Of course.
I'm of the school that there's enough for everybody, and there's no need to be like a secret agent with your work. Like, if you're doing good work and you've got a good network and you're producing good content, there's no reason for you to be a walled off person and be, petty with other photographers. I try to spread it around as much as I can.
Awesome, man. And then, just keeping it more, more rooted to just the area. Any favorite local restaurants, pubs, diners?
Restaurants. So former client, who I'm a Troy guy, so the Troy Brew Pub is always going to be high on my list. So a bunch of places in Saratoga, downtown Albany, it was DP. There's a bunch of great places here, and I feel like the culinary scene here is better, or just as good as any other city around us, and we're very lucky to have the talent that we have here.
That's for sure. There really is a wide variety of different things. Troy, I lived there a couple of years ago. I never really spent a lot of time in Troy until then, and just to see the dense the amount of restaurants per capita in one block. Like it was just like you go to Albany, it's here, there, and Troy, it's like almost every other business is looks like it's thriving, and it's really cool to see how the different towns in our capital region thrive.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Troy, so I lived in Troy 20 years ago, and then I moved out. I was raised there. So it wasn't like that. It was just on the cusp when I was living in downtown, but I go back there now and I'm just so impressed with, everything that's going on there, the support and the excitement for what's happening and people supporting it. I'm really happy to see my hometown flourishing the way it is.
100%. Now, is there, I guess, just moving forward into 2020, we're at the end of 2025, going into 2026, is there things that you would like to achieve that you haven't yet? It's good to set goals, but things you'd like to achieve, where do you see yourself moving forward in your creation career, I should say, not just photography?
So I wrote a book, beginning of the year. I released it in June. It's called Restoration's Field Guide to the Night. It's History Hidden in Darkness. So it's basically an exploration as to how the night has affected human history and our development. So it's basically all kind of interwoven history vignettes of how we came to evolve with the dark influencing us as a society. Kind of dovetails into the fact that I'm a dark sky delegate. So there's like 130 of us around the world, and we advocate for, controlling light pollution, and for the reasons why. You wouldn't expect light pollution to affect so many things, but it affects how we sleep, how we eat, it affects migration patterns, so there's so much to it. And the thing that I tell people, not to wander around here, but if you drove a car 20 years ago and you would get home, there'd be bugs all over the windshield. You no longer see that because the bugs are dying, because they can't produce the way they used to, because there's constant light pollution, and they would key on the cycles of day and night. Now you might say, cool, I don't care about bugs, but bugs are part of the food system. So if bugs disappear, pollinators disappear, things disappear. So there's a whole chain reaction to this. So that being said, I've really discovered I like writing books. So I wrote one in June. I've got 3 more done, which are basically anthologies of history. And I'm working on a fiction book. So I'm I've turned Restoration Obscura into a publishing and print. And that's what I'm really doing these days. I'm writing more than I'm taking photos, and I use the photos as support to, to tell the story. So the more I move forward, the more I'm integrating all my toolbox to tell stories in a much more rich and immersive way.
Incredible. Where can people find your book?
You can buy it on Amazon worldwide. So it's Kindle. It is print. I've had people buy it all over the world. People have been very nice to me. I was kind of insecure for releasing a book, but the response has been great. It's been humbling.
That's awesome, man. And when you're not writing, you're not shooting, what are some hobbies of yours that pull you away from your craft to then bring love back into your craft?
I wish I could say I have hobbies, but everything is integrated into one thing. So I feel like I work 24 hours a day. Content creation, and I tell this to people, and this, kind of calls back to your question about photographers starting out. And I tell this to anybody, if I'm consulting for social media, if I'm whatever, become a serial content creator. Look for content in everything you do. Look for ways to tell stories in whatever you do. Because, chances are if something appeals to you, it piques your interest, there's a bunch of people out there who agree with you. So, while I'm not actively working, I'm always thinking of things that I can write about, take photos of, research. So, I've kind of integrated it all into one thing, and, it's like a hybrid hobby, profession, lines blurred for sure.
Awesome, John. Well, I just want to thank you for even allowing me to have this conversation with you. Again, it's such a small community that we have here in the capital region, and people by their Instagram handle or what they are on Facebook, and you never get to really have a conversation with them. So I really appreciate you taking the time this morning to chat with me about your career and all the great things that you're doing. Just for those who don't know of your work or are watching this outside of the capital region, where can people find your stuff?
So funny story is there's a famous photographer with my name, and I think he's a knighted photographer, right? He was a pioneer of film in color in the north of England in the 50s, 60s. He's had photos with John Lennon. And it's funny because I'll get business inquiries for him. Like the government of Dubai contacted me like 10 years ago, like, hey, we want to fly you out here. This is your stipend. And I knew it wasn't for me, but I'm like, you know what, man, I could totally do this. Maybe I should just accept it and show up there and be like, wow, you're younger than we thought. So you can Google me, and if it's an 80-some-year-old guy who lives in England, it's not me, but I have a really big web presence. And if you just search John Bulmer, I'm up there. Bulmerphotography.com is my webpage, and restorationobscura.com is my Substack. So those are my, and on the webpage, there's a bunch of blogs. I have weather blogs, media blogs, all sorts of stuff. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome, John. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you out shooting in the field sometime.
Yeah, for sure. It's been great. It's great meeting you, and this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
No problem.